Have you ever noticed how some people drain you without saying a word? They sit beside you, smile politely, maybe even ask about your day. Yet when they leave, it feels like they carried your energy with them. That's the dark side of human nature most people ignore until it's too late. Evil doesn't storm into your life wearing horns. It creeps in as care, as charm, as gentle words that slowly bend your choices until you're no longer living your life, you're living theirs. But here's the light you must remember. Awareness is armor. Once you recognize the patterns, you stop being their victim and start being your own guardian. Like walking through fog and suddenly realizing the shapes aren't monsters, they're trees. Clarity changes everything. This video unfolds in 10 parts. Each one reveals a hidden sign, the kind that at first seems harmless, but later explains why you felt so exhausted, confused, or small around certain people. And in the later section, I'll give you something special, a simple practice, small enough to fit in your pocket, but powerful enough to guard your peace every single day. So let me ask you this. If clarity could save you from years of wasted trust and broken energy, will you walk with me until the very end? If you believe clarity like this can protect your life, share this video so more people stop walking blind into the same traps. 1. Manipulation disguised as care. They don't chain you with ropes. They chain you with tenderness. That's the cruel trick. The people you should fear most don't shout commands. They whisper concern. I just want the best for you. Trust me, I know what's right. It sounds like love. It feels like guidance. Yet underneath, it's control in disguise. Think of it like a gardener who insists on pruning a tree every single day. He says, I'm helping you grow straighter. But in truth, every cut takes away the tree's chance to expand in its own direction. Soon the branches stop reaching for the sky, not because they can't, but because they've been taught not to. Manipulation works the same way. It convinces you that obedience is safety, that dependence is affection. I once watched a man in my circle bend his life to please his partner. She chose his clothes, his friends, even his hobbies. At first, he thought it was care, someone finally paying attention to the details he used to ignore. But over time, his voice grew quieter, his spark dimmer. He was living as an echo, not a man. And you've likely seen it too, a parent who says, don't study art, be a doctor for your own good. Or a friend who insists, skip that trip, stay with me, I just care about your safety. On the surface, it looks like love. But if their care always leaves you with less freedom, less voice, less joy, it's not care at all. It's control wearing a friendly mask. It's like when a parent says, eat one more plate for me, or choose this career to make me proud. The words sound like love, but the hidden message is your choice isn't yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, a man's worth is measured by the things he pursues. If every pursuit you make belongs to someone else's desire, your worth is no longer your own. Manipulators thrive on shrinking you until you forget your size. Pause and reflect when someone guides you. Do you feel stronger or smaller? And if it's the latter, why are you still calling it love? 2. Charm too perfect. Charm is beautiful when it's real. It warms you, softens walls, and builds bridges. But when charm feels too perfect, it stops being connection and starts being theater. Some people polish their words until they shine like glass, smooth, flawless, and fragile. It dazzles you for a moment, but try to lean on it and you'll cut your hand. Think of it like walking into a store where every fruit looks identical, same sauce, same shine, not a single blemish. At first, you're impressed. But then you realize, real fruit never looks that flawless. It's been waxed, sprayed, engineered to appear perfect. That's how false charm works. You've even seen it in the spotlight, a daytime talk show host who built a brand around kindness and generosity, always smiling, always handing out gifts. On screen, it looked flawless. But later, the backstage story revealed a very different truth, reminding us that charm can be a costume, not a character. I once knew a neighbor who greeted everyone with the same rehearsed warmth. He remembered names, cracked jokes, sprinkled compliments like confetti. At first, people adored him, yet over time, the pattern emerged. His flattery was currency. He invested in whoever could bring him benefit and quietly dismissed the rest. Behind his perfect smile was a calculator, not a heart. And you've likely seen it too. The friend who praises your new job but adds, "Don't get too comfortable, it's not that impressive." Or the colleague who claps loudly for your success, only to whisper doubts when the room empties. Their charm isn't generosity, it's camouflage. Epictetus once said, "Appearances are often deceptive. Truth lies beneath." Real kindness doesn't need bright colors to be noticed. It shows up when no one is watching, like a candle in a quiet room, steady and unpretentious. Genuine people don't need a stage. They bring the same presence to your darkest night as they do to your brightest day. And here's a promise. Later in this journey, you'll receive something small yet powerful, like a key you didn't know you were missing. Once you have it, every interaction around you will look different. Stay with me. So ask yourself, when the applause dies down and the charming person leaves the room, do you still feel valued? Or do you feel like the spotlight has simply moved on to someone else? 3. Lies that rewrite reality. A single lie is rarely loud. It doesn't crash into your life like thunder. Instead, it drips like a leaking faucet, drop by drop, until your sense of reality is soaked and warped. By the time you notice, you're already standing ankle-deep in doubt, wondering how the floor became so wet beneath you. Think of it like walking through a house of mirrors. At first, you laugh at the distortions. One mirror makes you taller, another makes you smaller. But stay long enough, and you begin to forget what you really look like. That's what a liar wants. Not just to hide the truth, but to make you question your own reflection. The danger is not the mirror itself, but the slow erosion of trust in your own eyes. I once sat in a parent-teacher meeting where one father calmly twisted the story of his child's behavior. When the teacher pointed out issues, he redirected blame onto other kids. "It's the environment, not my son." Over time, the narrative shifted so often that even other parents, until truth felt like it had been voted out of the room. And you've likely seen it too in everyday life. A partner who insists, "I never said that," even though you remember the words burning in your ears. A friend who rewrites events so many times that you start to wonder if your memory is broken. Even a sibling who retells family stories in a way that quietly erases your role until you doubt whether you were ever there. Lies aren't just attacks on facts. They're attacks on your confidence, your stability, your sense of what's real. Seneca once warned, "A lie may deceive the world, but it cannot deceive the one who told it." The liar always knows what they're doing, but the price is paid by you when your clarity collapses. Without clarity, you're easy to bend, easy to manage, easy to control. That's why deceit is more dangerous than anger. It doesn't push you back, it pulls you inward until you can't tell which way is up. Let that question linger. When someone's story keeps shifting, do you trust their words more than your own eyes? And if so, how long before you stop trusting yourself altogether? If you've ever seen lies twist reality like this, write "I choose clarity" in the comments. Let's remind each other we're not alone. 4. Absence of empathy. Empathy is the bridge between two souls. Without it, every word feels like a stone skipping across water. No depth, no connection, just noise on the surface. You know when it's missing, when your story is met with a shrug, when your pain becomes someone else's stage, when your silence is ignored instead of honored. Think of it like singing a song to someone wearing noise-canceling headphones. No matter how honest your melody, they will never hear it. Some people go through life this way, deaf to others, tuned only to the frequency of their own desires. I remember one evening with my mother, Anya. I had just returned from a brutal week, and though I didn't say much, I thought my silence spoke for me. She noticed. She sat beside me without a speech, without advice, just presence. After a while, she said softly, "You don't have to explain everything. I can feel it." That moment taught me more about empathy than any book ever could. It wasn't words that carried me. It was her willingness to sit in my storm without making it about her. Contrast that with the friend at dinner who, when another man confessed he'd lost his job, quickly replied, "You think that's bad? Let me tell you about my week." His lack of empathy turned a cry for support into background noise. That's the difference. One presence heals, the other empties. And you've probably felt it too. Maybe you shared a dream only to be met with sarcasm, or you revealed a hurt and the other person changed the subject. In those moments, you realize empathy isn't optional. It's the heartbeat of trust. Without it, every connection feels brittle. The next time someone shares with you, pause for 3 breaths before answering. Often, silence carries more healing than any quick reply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "To live for oneself alone is to be dead to others." Empathy is not weakness, it's proof of life. You don't need everyone to understand you, but you deserve to be around those who try. Let that question settle. Who in your circle makes you feel lighter when you speak, and who leaves you carrying the same weight you walked in with? 5. Obsession with control. I'll confess something. When I was younger, I thought helping people meant arranging every detail for them. I chose the restaurant, planned the schedule, even decided what others should order. I called it care. In truth, it was control, ego disguised as generosity. It's funny when you're the friend who overplans a night out, but it turns darker when someone builds their whole life on pulling strings that aren't theirs. Control is their oxygen. They breathe it, crave it, and panic when it slips away. In the office, it looks like the boss who rewrites every email, not to improve it, but to remind you he's in charge. At home, it's the parent who says, "Do it my way or you'll embarrass the family." In love, it's the partner who wraps you in guilt until you stop trusting your own decisions. Think of it like a puppeteer pulling strings. From the outside, the puppet still looks alive, arms waving, legs moving. But every motion is decided by someone else's hand. The tragedy is that many of us only realize we've been the puppet after years of believing we were dancing on our own. I once knew a man who wanted to switch careers. He was excited, full of ideas, but his partner whispered, "You're not ready. You'll fail. Let me take care of things." He listened, stepped back, and the chance vanished. That wasn't protection. It was a leash. And here's the sting. The more he obeyed, the less she respected him. Control doesn't build love, it starves it. You see it in families too, a parent filling every form, making every call, until the child grows up never knowing how to stand on his own. Control raises dependence, not strength. Epictetus warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Those obsessed with control don't want your growth, they fear it. Because if you outgrow their grip, their power evaporates. Stay with me, because soon you'll receive something no chain can hold. Let me ask you, when you make choices, do you feel the ground beneath your own feet or the strings someone else tied to your hands? 6. Blame as a weapon. Here's a shift. Some people never raise their voice, never lift a hand, yet they wound you deeper than anyone else. How? By turning every mistake into yours, even the ones they created. Blame, when used as a weapon, doesn't just shift responsibility, it slowly convinces you that you're broken. Think of it like playing a game where the rules keep changing. No matter how carefully you move, the referee always finds a way to call you wrong. At first you argue, then you adapt. Eventually you stop playing, not because you lost, but because you lost faith in fairness itself. That's the power of constant deflection. I once saw a friend work on a group project. Deadlines were missed not because of him, but because the leader kept changing instructions. Yet when things collapsed, the blame landed on his shoulders. He tried defending himself, but the leader's calm tone made it seem like he was simply being constructive. The friend carried guilt that was never his to hold. And we've all felt it, haven't we? A partner who sighs, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't have made me upset." Or a colleague who shrugs, "Well, if you'd planned better, my mistake wouldn't matter." Blame like this doesn't just burden you with responsibility. It steals your ability to trust your own judgment. The cruelest part is this: after enough blame, you stop asking if you're right. You simply assume you're always wrong. That slow erosion is what keeps you quiet. Seneca once reminded us, truth stands firm without justification, while lies always require elaborate stories. When blame keeps circling back to you despite the facts, remember, it's not clarity speaking, it's manipulation. You are not guilty just because someone else is uncomfortable. You are not wrong just because someone refuses to own their truth. Take a breath and reflect. Who in your life makes you carry weights that were never yours? And why are you still letting them bend your back? If this truth hits close, tap the like button. It tells me these words matter. And subscribe so you don't miss the next step in building your freedom. 7. Pleasure in your pain. Some people don't just ignore your struggles, they savor them. They smile when you stumble, laugh when you fall, and secretly celebrate when life cuts you down. It's one of the darkest signs, because it reveals not only a lack of empathy but a hunger for your suffering. I'll admit, I once laughed along when a colleague forgot his lines during a presentation. Everyone chuckled, and I joined in. But later that night, guilt hit me like a wave. I realized I wasn't laughing at a joke. I was laughing at someone's wound. That's when I understood. When cruelty becomes entertainment, humanity is already bleeding. Think of it like children kicking over sandcastles at the beach. At first it seems harmless, but look closer. Someone spent time, care, and imagination building that castle. Destroying it brings no real gain, just a twisted thrill. That's how toxic souls operate. They don't climb higher by effort. They feel taller by standing on your ruins. I once knew a woman who would light up whenever others were scolded at work. She'd smirk, shake her head as if to say, "See, I'm better than them." Her joy wasn't in her own growth, but in their humiliation. Over time, it became clear. She needed others to lose so she could feel like she was winning. Or closer to home, the friend who chuckles when you gain weight, or the colleague who smirks when your idea gets dismissed. Small moments, but they reveal hungry eyes. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If someone delights in your pain, their thoughts are already poisoned. Their joy is a fragile mask hiding emptiness. And that's why I want to hand you something rare. Not advice, not theory, something sacred. Think of it as a phrase carved into stone, a line you can stand on when the ground beneath you feels stolen. When you face those who delight in your pain, stand still inside yourself and say, "No voice can rise above my own. No shadow can define my light. I am untouchable at the core." Don't just whisper it. Breathe it. Let it settle into your chest like armor forged in fire. Repeat it until their smirk feels small, until their laughter bends into silence. This is not defiance for show, it's remembrance. A reminder that your worth is not up for negotiation. Carry this with you as if it were a seal pressed into your soul, because once you claim this ground, no one, no smile, no word, no cruelty can take it from you again. The real question is this: the next time someone smiles at your suffering, will you let their shadow shape your light? Or will you claim the ground of your dignity and stand taller? 8. Isolation as a strategy. One of the cruelest tricks toxic people use isn't shouting or blaming, it's quiet separation. They don't always push you down, they pull you away from your friends, your family, your lifelines. Little by little, you start believing you're safest only with them. Think of it like dimming the lights in a theater. At first, it feels cozy, intimate, but soon you realize the walls are closing in and you can't even see the exits. Isolation works the same way. It makes you feel small, dependent, cut off from the voices that could remind you who you really are. I've seen this play out in families. A jealous sibling whispering, "They don't care about you the way I do." Or in relationships, a partner who insists, "Your friends don't understand us. Better to just stay in." On the surface, it sounds protective. In truth, it's a net being drawn tighter around you. I once saw a man who slowly stopped calling his old friends because his partner whispered, "They don't really get you." 2 years later, he realized she was the only number left in his phone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. You are not designed to live cut off." Unity is not a weakness, it's your natural state of strength. Here's something simple you can practice. Pick one person you trust, family, friend, or mentor. This week, reach out and share something real, a joy, a struggle, a decision you're weighing. Notice how their response lifts you, grounds you, or simply reminds you that you're not walking alone. That's how you break isolation. Not by grand speeches, but by one genuine connection at a time. Pause for a moment and let this sink in. True power doesn't come from walls, it comes from bridges. Here's what to weigh in your heart. Who have you let drift too far from your circle, and what would change if you reach for them again today? 9. Envy in disguise. Envy rarely walks through the door wearing green. It comes disguised. Soft words, polite smiles, compliments that sound supportive but cut beneath the skin. And that's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't attack head-on. It seeps in sideways. Think of it like a glass of water with a single drop of ink. At first, the water still looks clear, but little by little, the stain spreads until the whole glass is clouded. That's envy, subtle, contaminating, hard to spot until it's everywhere. I remember a friend from my school days. When I reconnected with him years later and shared that my work was finally gaining momentum, he congratulated me warmly in front of others. "You always had talent, MD. I knew you'd make it." But when we were alone, his words shifted. "Don't let it get to your head. You know success like this doesn't last." At first, I thought he was only being cautious. Only later did I realize he was planting doubt, hoping my confidence would wither so he wouldn't feel left behind. Envy doesn't just want what you have. It wants you to shrink so they can breathe easier. You've seen this too, the friend who says, "That's amazing, but don't get too excited." Or the colleague who adds, "Sure, but others have done better." These are not neutral comments. They are daggers wrapped in velvet. That's the difference. Charm makes you doubt their honesty. Envy makes you doubt your own worth. And doubting yourself is how you hand them the victory. Seneca once wrote, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul. It eats the envious from the inside. But before it consumes them, it often tries to consume you." That's why their words matter less than your awareness. Once you see envy for what it is, the poison loses its bite. Here's the reminder. Your light doesn't need permission to shine, and dimming yourself will never heal another's shadow. Think carefully. When you hear those faintly barbed compliments, do you shrink to make others comfortable? Or do you stand tall in the space you've earned? 10. The unrepentant heart. Some people will never say, "I'm sorry," not because they didn't cause harm, but because admitting fault feels like death to their pride. To them, stubbornness is strength, and self-reflection is weakness. That is the mark of the unrepentant heart. Think of it like a cracked vase. Instead of mending it, they paint over the fracture, pretending it was always whole. But paint doesn't heal the break. It only hides it until the next touch shatters everything again. I once knew a man who, no matter the situation, always found a way to escape blame. If he hurt someone, he'd say, "You're too sensitive." If he failed, he'd argue, "The system was against me." Over time, he built a fortress of excuses so high that no truth could climb over. Living near him was like breathing air that never cleared. You always carried the weight of what he refused to own. But here's the light. His refusal to repent was not my burden to carry. And neither is it yours. Stoic wisdom teaches us that we cannot control another person's willingness to grow, but we can control whether we let their denial poison our peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one repentance, humility, the courage to change." These are not signs of weakness, but of life itself. So if you find yourself close to someone who never admits, never changes, never heals, step back, not in anger, but in clarity. Save your energy for those who can face the mirror and still choose to grow. The truth is, refusal to repent is its own punishment. A person who never bends never learns how to stand taller. They may look firm on the outside, but inside they remain brittle, one crack away from collapse. Reflection, by contrast, is not weakness. It is the quiet rebuilding of strength. Every time you admit a fault, you lay a stronger foundation beneath your feet. Every time you choose honesty over excuse, you gain freedom no one can take from you. And here's the key. You don't need their apology to heal. The moment you stop waiting for it, your life belongs back to you. Stop for a moment. Do you notice where your energy goes? Will you keep pouring it into unrepentant hearts or honor your own by walking toward the light? You've just walked through 10 signs of hidden darkness, the kinds of behaviors that drain trust, distort truth, and quietly steal your strength. But remember this, awareness is not about fear, it's about freedom. Once you see clearly, the shadow cannot control you. Life will always bring people who test you. Some will try to manipulate, others will hide behind charm. Some will lie without end, and a few will even rejoice in your pain. But none of these forces are stronger than the moment you choose clarity over confusion, presence over doubt, and dignity over control. Think of your mind like a lantern in a storm. The winds will howl, the rain will strike, but as long as you protect the flame, you are never lost. That flame is your self-awareness. Guard it, feed it, trust it. Because the moment you believe in your own clarity more than in someone else's deception, you step into true freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Choose thoughts that heal, not ones that chain. Choose relationships that nourish, not ones that drain. Choose to walk with those who see your worth, not those who need you small. So let this be your final reflection. The world will not always apologize for its harm, but you can always rise above it. The weight of another's darkness is not yours to carry. Your light is not theirs to dim. And maybe tonight, as you close this video, you whisper to yourself, I am free at the core. No mask, no chain, no shadow defines me. If this journey gave you strength, pass it forward. Like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to protect their light today. Carry that truth with you, not just for today, but for every day you want to live unbroken, untouchable, and fully alive.